Hi, everyone. It's us, the hosts of Dear God. I'm Uma Gahd, everybody's favorite unofficial auntie.
And I'm Selma Gahd, your motivational monster.
And in this episode, we are going to be talking about the three most important kinds of people in your life. Teachers, villains, and gay men.
And if you're really lucky, they're one and the same.
So here we are at Saint Motel, and we are in their comfy, cozy, plushy environment.
So we are also comfy, cozy, and plushy with our nice hoodies and our Crocs.
Fuzzy Crocs. Oh no.
Oh no, we're both. It's Drag Race all over again. Wait, I'm not going to help her. I'm just going to film.
Well, this is it, folks. This you're not pointing at me. Ooh, and my leggings, color by icons from Never Apart Gallery. Ooh la la. Ooh. Don't look at my skirt. It's not that kind of show. Okay, hang on. There's gonna be a cut here because I'm going to sit back up properly.
Is there? I don't think I should cut. I think this should just be the whole episode now.
I think you.
There's ninja warriors, and then there's drag queens and cushions.
Oh no. No. Trying to sit like a lady.
That's going to be hard for you. I love you. What were we saying?
We're here in the comfy cozy section that's trying to kill me. For those of you who are listening and didn't get to see any of that, my cushions fell out from under me, and I was back on the floor again with my legs in the air, just like at the season finale of Canada's Drag Race Season 5, when I fell off the couch in slow motion.
Yes, because also, if you're only listening and not watching, we are two fabulous drag queens here at Saint Motel, which is a photography studio with 30 different sets that you can take amazing pictures and videos in, or just rent out to have a fabulous time with your friends or coworkers.
Let's get back on track. Selma, how are you?
I'm doing so good because this was everything I needed in my life. Someone else struggling, and I just get to enjoy the process. Thank you. How are you?
You're very welcome, and I'm back on the cushions, so everything's okay. I'm doing really good. You know what? I have been pulling my tarot card every morning.
Oh, a little routine.
A little routine.
Talking about in the last episode, little routines.
And when I say every morning, I mean for the last couple of days because there was a lapse in the routine for about a week and a half.
It doesn't matter. It's not about competition. It's about doing things that feel good for yourself and taking the time for yourself.
Exactly. So I've been pulling my tarot card every morning, and the last couple that I got the Eight of Wands, which is like good things quickly coming in the future, great relationships, great experiences, all coming very quickly, very soon. And then I got the Empress, which is like abundance and generosity and femininity and just kind of like hard work paying off again.
I love that.
And it's very, very apropos because, listen, y'all, like true drag queens, we are about to announce an announcement.
We are going to announce things, but due to time travel.
Yes, because we have great news that we know about, but because of time traveling, we don't know if we can tell you about it yet. So what we're going to do is that we're going to tell you about how we're going to tell you about it later.
Exactly. So I have some really exciting news coming up that is going to be shared shortly, but I'm very excited. It's a new challenge in my drag career that means a lot to me. And I'm very excited to be starting on this journey and be able to do what I'm best at.
She's winning Drag Race. She's winning Drag Race.
Yep, and I'm letting you all know right now.
Brooklyn Heights said, I retire. Call up that scary bitch from Montreal. She's the only one that can take my place. So they handed you a crown, and then she walked off set. And
No, Brooklyn's never had a crown.
No, that's not true. Wasn't she Miss Continental?
She was That's true. I take it back, Brooklyn. You have a crown, just not a drag race crown.
I do not need you pissing off my boss.
Well, no, you just said I'm your boss now.
Okay.
Rewind.
So Selma's got some really great stuff coming up, but I also have some really fun news that's coming up as well. I'm remaining vaguely vague. I'm going to have a more recurring booking, a more recurring show that I'm going to get to be doing that I'm really excited about. Something that I think that a lot of people are going to really be happy to see, and it's going to be like you said, it's kind of one of those things where we're going to feel like after years and years and years of work, we're finally getting something that we have worked hard for, and so it feels great, and you're going to be able to find out all about it on the socials. So follow us on Instagram, on the Facebook, we might TikTok, I don't think, but we're there.
We're all just our website.
And on the website, absolutely. And if you really want to know what Uma's up to at 3 a.m., you can also find me on Twitter.
Yes. And if you do go on our website, all of our news is usually there, including the podcast and a section where you can write in anonymously to the podcast because, yes, Dear God is an advice column based in your questions. So real user submitted questions and your aunties give you advice. So on the website, houseofgod.com, God, G-A-H-D.
Like high definition.
Or hot damn.
Holy divinity.
Oh, why haven't we been using that one the whole time?
I do. I save it for the third one.
Oh, I'm just really excited about hot dogs, apparently.
Yeah. Well, while we're talking about advice, let's just let everybody know right off the top that our
credentials as advice givers are as real as these diamonds, which is to say they're not. We have no credentials worth mentioning, but we're going to have a great time making shit up that hopefully resonates with you. Trust your doctors, your psychologists, and the people that know you best. This advice is for entertainment purposes only.
That one wasn't bad.
It was decent. Like our advice.
Like our advice.
Oh!
Sorry to anybody who's listening. All right. So here on Dear God, we like to serve it up to you, diner style. No, fancy dinner style.
Diner style? I'm just imagining like a waitress rollerblading in and chucking questions at us.
So no, we're not going to do that.
That'd be fun, though.
Here on Dear God, we like to serve it up to you like a fancy restaurant. And so we are going to start our questions with a starter. So there we go. So, all right. So are you ready?
I am prepared. I'm going to focus.
All right. So our starter says, Dear God, I just want to say I love y'all, but I also have a question.
Thank you.
You could have just stopped there. We would have been okay with it. But we do also appreciate your questions. So the question is, Dear God, why are some, if not most boys or men, emotionally immature, while gay men seem to have more emotional maturity? The thing about that is that it's not true. This is a message for gay men. You're not better than anybody. Gay men are not better than anybody just because they are gay men. We live in our little slice of the universe, and we like to think our thinky thoughts and feel our big feelings, and sometimes we get things a little bit more humanely than some other people. Let's say that. But we are not better than other people.
Well,
because gay men, at the end of the day, what are they? Men. So, I mean, I think that the reason why people perceive gay men to be more emotionally mature than straight men, I think is one, partly because of fantasy. Because when straight people write gay people, the only options for us is, for gay men anyways, is that straight people will write, and this is how it's been, for so long in media, is that we are dying or dead. Again, axe murderer. Or they think that we are like just culture savants, that we are, plugged into everything that makes culture happen, that we're so smart and intelligent and, emotionally invested in the lives of all of the people around, blah, blah, blah. It's a fantasy. Because they're not real people, these gay men on the TV, in the movies, whatever. The other thing is that I think that by virtue of being queer, queer people, not just queer men, we all have to do a lot of self-reflection to, one, understand who we actually are. Because up until very recently, and even still to this day, we have been told that, gay people aren't right. They can't exist. They, you're alone. You're the only one. You're wrong. And so we had to do a lot of self-reflection to be like, is this actually what's going on? Because I don't want that. Mm-hmm. And then when you realize it is what's going on, then you have to realize the I don't want that came from a weird place that you have to outgrow, because you should want to be yourself. We have to think about our relationships with other people. Who can we trust? Who can we tell? Who are we going to bring into our lives? Who are we going to share our culture with? So we do have a lot of emotional development that we've done in a way that cis heterosexual men haven't done as much of, probably. I'm talking about
generalities,
wide strokes, cis het men with an asterisk or a TM next to it or whatever. So I think that that's part of the reason why we are seen that way, is because of the fact that we are emotionally invested in parts of ourselves that other men are not. But it doesn't make us globally more intelligent or mature.
So to sum that up, trauma. I do think, listen, we're talking, like you said, broad strokes here. Straight men grow up, straight boys who grow up to be straight men don't grow up with the idea of compromise, of self-sacrifice, of putting others before themselves, of self-doubt. It's not something that's hammered into them over and over and over again, because they just fit the status quo. They just accomplish what they're supposed to be accomplishing in life. So like you said, queer men, and queer people in general, but the question was about queer men here, the reason they're often perceived as being more emotionally intelligent is because a lot of us have been socialized like women.
Well, so this is the other thing, is we often, we for the sake of glibness, we kind of talk about straight men as if they've decided all of this and that this is how they are. But when you really get down to it, the reason that so many gay men act or talk or express themselves in a particular way, as the stereotype, is not because gayness breeds this kind of person. It's that gayness breeds a marginality. We're already on the outsides, so we're not going to work that hard to change how we are, because we're already freaks by society's standards. So what's the difference? If I'm already going to be kissing a boy, I might as well also wear eyeliner because I want to, and
if I'm going to be ostracized already.
Yeah, if I'm already going to be on the outsides, I might as well just embrace every part of me that I want to and not fight against it. So that means that if I want to cry in public, I'll do it. If I want to wear makeup, I'll do it. But there's just as many queer men who are into sports and who are rough and tough and tumble and whatever, because they are free to be that in our spaces. There's a weird dynamic sometimes, but we're not going to get into that.
That's a whole other episode.
Whereas straight men who have those same proclivities, that love musical theater, that are emotionally invested in the people around them, that are sensitive and thoughtful, those are things that get hammered out of them by society. So by the time they become adults, it's ingrained in their personality. So it's kind of like they have to do all of that, again, that self-reflection, that self-exploration, and decide what parts of themselves they want to commit to in the future. But by that point, it's so late that oh God, You know? So, I mean, it's not just that, straight men are terrible. It's what society asks straight men to be is terrible.
So really, again, the problem is the patriarchy.
It's the patriarchy. It's not all men.
It's not their fault. It's the system.
It's the system.
But if they choose to uphold it, fuck him.
Exactly. That's it. So there we go. So, gay men are better than straight men because no, they're not, and that's not how that works.
I mean, if we're gonna make a ladder.
No,
for all my gamers out there, I'll put out the the
tier ranking.
Yeah. Well, it's gonna come out on socials. Check it out later. No, I'm not gonna do that.
We're non-hierarchical here. All men are terrible.
You know what? I'm not going to disagree with that.
After I just finished saying that not all men are terrible, but we can. Yes, there we go. All right, so I hope that helps. Now we're going to move on now to our main. So the main course for this one is something that I feel like we might have touched a little bit on in some other episodes.
Okay,
but I think this one in particular uses a word that really struck me, and so I was like, maybe we should talk about that.
Okay.
So this one says, "Dear God, how do you set boundaries with people you love without feeling like the villain in their story?"
Oh, yeah. So I surprise, I talk about boundaries a lot. Okay. I'm going to address one portion of it and then let you jump in because I want to think you thought about some parts of this.
She needs to reflect. She needs to think about what she's done or going to do.
I don't want to upset people.
Oh. Oh, no.
Okay. This is a message for all the people pleasers out there.
We are full of messages today. Get into it.
I just pictured a bunch of pigeons flying in.
Oh, I imagined a mailbag falling from the ceiling and just flock.
So now just pigeons bombarding us with mail.
Listen, as long as you get the message, that's what matters. We don't care what manner you're getting the message in. Smoke signals, pigeons, mailbags, emails, text messages, sideways glances furtively across the metro car. As long as you get the message. And here is the message.
This message is for all the people pleasers out there. You will be the villain in someone else's story. There is nothing you can do about it. Stop fighting it. Listen, in life, you can control your actions and the things that you say. You cannot change how someone else perceives you. You cannot control how someone else perceives you. That is an illusion, and that illusion is what's driving you cuckoo banana pants crazy. Stop. Listen, if you are a good person doing good things in the world, someone will still not like you. Someone will still be offended by something you did or disagree with how you approach something or have the opposite opinion of you. And you need to stop caring about that. You need to be secure in knowing that you are a good person with a good heart and be okay with someone perceiving you as being their villain. And that's fine because that's not on you. You need to let that go. That's my first thing about this whole question. I'm like, people need to be okay with being the villain.
Unless you're actually an asshole, then, at some point you do need to, maybe do better.
Yeah,
but
this is why this was only for the people pleasers. Because yes, if you're an ass, do better.
Yeah. I think that sometimes our brains like to catastrophize things. Especially if you are a people pleaser, you're already kind of in that insecure zone of oh gosh, everything's got to go right, and so you catastrophize things where you sit there and you think that every time you do something, the worst thing that's going to happen is the most likely, and you think that means that this person's going to be mad about me setting boundaries or saying no or giving my opinion or elaborating or whatever, and then because they don't like it, I am now going to be the worst person imaginable. I want you to stop and think for a moment. How many people in your life are truly villainous? How many real, like, antagonists live in your life? How many people are
People that you care about.
No, but not
just in general?
Just in general.
Okay.
How many people in your life, in your real, physical world? I'm not talking about like the powers that be. How many of them are actually like your arch enemy? Because I'm pretty sure that there's not that many. And if there's not that many of them in your life, like if you're not walking around being like, oh my God, I've got 97 ops, why would you think that you are so powerful that you are now the villain in every other person's story? That's not possible. Chill out. Stop being so hard on yourself. That's just for people in general. But you were specifically asking, I want to make sure. So specifically the people that you love. We have a friend who has had to set some really hard boundaries recently with a family member. And that was really, really hard for them. But when you realize that somebody else actually is doing villainous stuff, like truly is out there doing like nasty, weird, manipulative, stalking you across your different social media accounts just because you set a boundary with them that they don't respect, and every time you block them on one, they find you somewhere else, that's villain stuff. That's actual villain stuff. So when someone else is being the villain, you probably aren't. Setting your boundary, yeah, they might look at you like you're the villain because they are seeing the world in upside down spaces where they think that harassing people and manipulating them is like virtuous. They might think you're a villain, but do you care? Like maybe you do because again, this is family sometimes. These are people that we care about. It's our partners. But if this is somebody that you're looking at and going like, I need to set this hard boundary and they're not respecting that, that's villain behavior. Mm-hmm. And when was the last time we ran around trying to placate villains? Like, instead of viewing these people as like actual like Bond villains who are holding the nuclear codes, you have to start envisioning them as Dr. Evil, who's looking at people going like, I want 1 million fifillion quadrillion dollars or I will release the cats. It's nonsense. They're not a real villain. They're not. So like, I don't know, I'm getting...
She's feeling things. I think we both got so impassioned about this that we forgot the first part of the question. So I'm gonna bring us back to that. It's boundaries, right? How do I set boundaries?
Yeah.
So we're just because that second part is important because sometimes it's just not worth. I've said this before and I'm saying it again. Sometimes some people and some relationships are not worth the effort. In which case, why do you care either way? Just move along.
Yeah, the villain part is the like recognizing what's happening in this scenario. Yeah. So like you have to realize who is actually the villain so that you can set these boundaries.
Yes. And boundaries, if done properly, are about respect. Respecting yourself, respecting the others, and being clear with your values and your time and your person and respecting that. So your boundaries might not align with somebody else's views of what they should be, which can make you a villain, which brings you back to my point of who cares. But the reason you have to learn to set boundaries is for your self-respect. Because if you don't respect yourself and you view you as having boundaries, having limits, or having capacities as being a weakness, you view that as you not being a good friend or a good family member, you are forever going to fail yourself and be miserable. You cannot go through life doing everything for everybody else without acknowledging that you as a person have needs, not wants. You have needs, and those needs need to be respected. Sometimes you might say like, I can't deal with this right now. It's too much for me. I need to take a step back. Or, hey, I can't drive you to the airport on Monday, my car is broken, I don't have the energy, I have to go to work, I don't have the time, unfortunately, you're gonna have to take a cab. Whatever, if it's a big or small thing, it doesn't matter. But the thing is that you have to learn to respect yourself to set those boundaries, because otherwise you're gonna people please for the rest of your life and never put yourself first and never love yourself and never feel good, right? It's just you're gonna be constantly exhausted, and no matter how much you do for other people, you'll always be failing them because they'll always be asking for more.
I also think that there's like levels of boundaries.
Yes.
Because some of them can be like more like a preference. Like, okay, a lot of people in families, the boundary crossing ends up happening with like when there's children involved. And so, for instance, like when the grandparents decide that they're going to let the kids do whatever they want at grandma and grandpa's house, so that you could say that you prefer that they go to bed at 9 o'clock and then at grandma and grandpa's they stay up till 11. Is that worth cutting off your the grandparents? That's for you to decide, but I don't think that it's quite as severe as something else. You know, like at Christmas, lots of grandparents love to buy the grandchildren piddle to crap. They buy them all kinds of, you know, toys and plastic things and blah, 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 and it piles up and everybody starts buying the kids this, and then you got mountains of stuff, and a lot of parents will look and be like, stop buying us these things. If they keep buying you these things, again, is it really worth cutting them off? That's up to you. But like, is it the same as, say, we don't let the kids play violent games and swear at home, but you do it in front of them when they visit? Or you bring violent video games into our house and you swear in front of them. That becomes like that's much deeper. That's how we are raising these kids, is now you're treading on that. So these are where you can look at like these boundaries. How flexible are they? How flexible do you need to be? Because maybe you feel like every one of them it's like if you're treating every boundary as like the line in the sand before I cut you off, you're putting too much on yourself. You can be flexible. Be flexible, be clear. Not everything needs to be like the beginning and the end, the one or the other, the black and the white. I don't know. I feel like maybe I'm rambling, but I'm just saying that like...
I hear what you're saying, because often when anybody talks about boundaries, people automatically go into this flight or fight mode. It's either you do what I say and I'm going to run away if you don't do it, or I'm going to fight you on it. There's no space for breathing room. Some boundaries can be a little bit more flexible than others, you know? Some things aren't as dire, aren't as the end of the world. I think for me, when I talk about boundaries, like my first instinct is always to think about things like self-respect, limitations of energy, amount of work you're willing to do for people. But you're right. Boundaries can also be, like you said, how am I raising my kids and how do they interact with the grandparents? That is a boundary that can be important. And so, but yeah, there's categories of boundaries, but I think at the end of the day, like I mentioned it a little bit earlier, it really comes down to self-respect, right? You know that if something is going against who you are as a human being, if you're a trans person and your parent is coming at you and constantly misgendering you and is constantly talking about how trans people don't deserve to have the rights, or they shouldn't complain about their gender markers on their passports or whatever it is, that is not the same as someone asking you to get up early to do chores. Like, there's a big difference there.
And the reason I bring it up is because if a lot of people, when they hear the word boundaries, it becomes, like you said, very dire. It's very make or break. And so when we think of setting a boundary of kind of I'll say a more, not reasonable, what's the word I'm looking for? When we try to set a boundary that is of a slightly less, grandiose magnitude, then we can still feel like it's the biggest thing in the world. And so we don't want to do it because, oh God, it's so huge, it's so big. Boundaries are normal and they vary in seriousness. And if you treat every boundary like it is going to be the end of the world, you will never want to set any of them. And getting used to setting small boundaries gets you used to setting medium boundaries, gets big boundaries. You have to be realistic and reasonable about things. And reasonable doesn't mean I have to breathe and kumbaya myself out of any no, sometimes big feelings are real. Big feelings are valid. Big feelings are supposed to happen. Being reasonable is saying, is this the moment for the big feelings? Is this the moment for the big boundary? For the ultimatum?
Yeah.
You know? So recognize the magnitude. Recognize the seriousness of whatever it is that you're talking about, and then go from there. I think that that's why it's important, just because when you say boundaries, it can sound really scary, and it doesn't have to be.
Yeah, and also, not every boundary has to be something you sitting down and being like, okay, grandma, this is my boundary. Not everything has to be like an officially documented discussion. I think there's a way of implementing boundaries and making it clear what our needs are that isn't necessarily like contractual, right? And like you just said, getting used to setting boundaries makes them less of a big deal. The same way as if you're used to doing confrontation, you don't see confrontation as being monumental and exhausting as just a difference of opinions. Whereas some people that don't do confrontation, usually any type of confrontation sends them to a panic attack and they cannot handle two people disagreeing. But the same thing is true for boundaries. You need to get used to setting them. And I'll give you an example that is just as serious, but there's a difference here in who it's being applied to. So if you are a trans person and your parent or grandparent keeps misgendering you and it's very upsetting to you and you say like, you cannot keep doing this. For my mental health, for my well-being, this is not acceptable behavior from someone I love. You need to do better. But if I am in the room and they say something like that, I'm still going to be upset for you, but it doesn't affect me the same way. So I'm able to react differently, but still enforce the boundary. There's layers here. Follow me. So if this is you, you're fully entitled to tell the person, this is unacceptable. Do better. If I'm in the room and they misgender you, I'm just going to look at them and say, oh, no. And say your proper name and pronouns and move on from there. I'm just not even going to give them the energy because I don't think I'm going to tell them you're wrong, correct them and move on. And I will keep correcting them until they do it appropriately.
I think a lot of times people, especially when it comes to the people that they love and care for the most, a boundary, you expect it, again, it becomes the biggest thing in the world. And sometimes it is, but when you expect it to be the biggest thing in the world, you think that you're going to have to sit down and write out the whole contract of the expectation and the result and the whole thing. Sometimes setting a boundary is like a personal inside thing. And if you know that that's not going to work on the outside, you just keep doing the work yourself. So like if somebody knows that you hate a particular kind of joke or something like that, you know, these are just examples that we're thinking of off the top of our head. But if someone knows that you don't like potty humor, let's say, and so for you, a boundary is like, don't make those jokes around me. You don't like sex jokes. Don't make those jokes around me. I don't like those jokes. Sometimes the boundary is on the inside. So all you have to do is when they tell you those things, you look at them, you roll your eyes, and then you just don't say anything.
Yep.
The boundary is you told that joke and I'm not going to laugh. I'm not going to engage. I'm not going to encourage this even with negative feedback. I'm just going to pretend it didn't happen. The boundary is a wall. I didn't even hear you. So I think that, you know, when you're setting these boundaries, again, look at the seriousness. It doesn't have to be a confrontation. It can also just be, I have my limits and I enforce them within my own life and I live that way. And that's that.
That's such a good piece of advice, honestly. That's what I was trying to get at. And you said it so eloquently. It really is that sometimes it's not about the confrontation with the other person. It can be. Sometimes it's needed. Don't avoid confrontation if it's necessary. But yeah, sometimes a boundary is something that you set for yourself within yourself and just say, no, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not going to put up with someone being unpleasant around me. I'm just going to walk away and not call that person back. That friend that every time you hang out as a group is always negative and heavy and never has anything nice to say about anybody. And you've tried to cheer them up. You've tried to hang out. You've tried to tell them. And you're just like, you know what? I'm not going to invite them next time.
The boundary could have been, I'm going to look at you in the face and I'm going to tell you, my boundary is that you can't be here talking about those things with me. That's a boundary.
Yeah.
But a boundary is also, I'm going to go out with these people. And if that person is there, I'm not going to engage with them. And then another boundary is, I'm not going to let these people invite this person. Another boundary is, if I know that person's going to be there, I'm not going. These are all boundaries. You can find boundaries that aren't necessarily confrontational. You can find ones that have to be, like, boundaries are complicated, and that's why they stress people out so much.
You have to remember, like I said initially, respect yourself. I think that's the biggest thing when it comes to like boundary. Like people, I'm assuming this question is like because it was about family that it can be touchy.
Loved ones.
Yeah, loved ones. That it can be difficult because you sometimes put people that you love above yourself in priority levels. And if you're a parent, I think that's mandatory. If you're a parent, your child's needs should come before your ego or anything else you have going on. But in other situations, you do need to take care of yourself. And you do need to learn to be like, no. You need to learn to say no. And that's fine. It doesn't make you a bad person. It doesn't make you a bad person to disagree with someone you love. It doesn't make you a bad person to tell them, I'm not going to do that, or I can't do that. I don't want to do that. And that's okay.
And stick to your boundaries.
Yes.
You want to be flexible in certain times, but sometimes you do have to just follow through. Because if you don't follow through, then you're telling the person that the boundary isn't actually real.
Yep.
And that's kind of, again, that's the realizing what the boundary is, why it exists, who's on the other side, how flexible you're going to be. These are all things that I'm saying because it's the meta, right? It's looking down on a situation from above and really being as impartial and yet sensitive to the entire situation and being real with yourself about how much does this matter, and then following through with the equal amount of effort and care. Because if it isn't actually the end of the world, then you don't need to act like it is. And if it is the end of the world, then you need to, if it is the end of the world, you need to act like it is. So I think that those are some tips that you can use in order to set some boundaries with people that you care about and also keep yourself sane while you're doing it.
Yeah, because how is somebody else going to respect the boundary if you don't respect it yourself? If you let them cross that line over and over and over again, like you said, you just tell them that the boundary doesn't actually exist. So it's a thing. It's an internal and external thing. It's the navigation of all of that. And I hope that answers the question, because it's kind of like there's a lot happening here and you have to like...
It's a one sentence question with a lot of possibilities.
Yeah, well, especially because like we don't know the exact situation, right? But I want to give advice that is applicable to you and possibly applicable to other people as well that are maybe living through something slightly different, but this still applies. Our boundaries apply to everybody. Before we go into dessert, let's thank our fabulous sponsor here, Saint Motel, for letting us film our fabulous podcast in these amazing rooms. You should check them out. They're based in Montreal and have 13 different rooms for your enjoyment.
So you can use it as a selfie studio, a photography studio. You could film a podcast there. You can do a birthday party here, a bachelorette. It's a fabulous space for you to get into. And even if you've already been here before, they are always changing up the rooms, so you can check out some new environments. Everything and every inch of this place is photographable. Like the toilet is a photo op. So come check it out, Le Saint Motel here in Montreal.
Amazing. Now, Uma, I'm very excited for dessert. It's the favorite part of the meal for a lot of people. What do we got today?
What we have today is an opportunity for us to let everybody know. Don't forget, people. Send us your questions at houseofgod.com. They can be silly. They can be serious. They can be wackadoo. They can be questions or advice requests. But, you can let us, do you hate your boss? And you want to know what you think you should do? Like, what does God think you should do about your boss that you hate? Ask us. Is your mother, annoying you? Did someone use bad table manners and you feel like maybe you need some backup here?
Did someone buy 1% milk?
And you want to know what to do about it? Let us know. It can be relationships, it could be work, it could be family, it could be queer, it could be sexy, it could be about collections. Is your collection hoard getting out of hand and we want to talk about it? Let's talk about it. So send us your questions at houseofgod.com. It's completely anonymous. And while you're there at houseofgod.com, you can, of course, find the list of all of our episodes of Dear God. And you can also watch the YouTube channel so you can see how fabulous we look in these amazing environments. I'm falling again. It's going to be a super cut at the end. It's just going to be all the times that Uma is slipping out from under herself. Okay. Now let's get to the last question. Oh. This is actually exactly the kind of question I was just talking about.
Okay.
Because it's not a question of advice. It's a life question.
A life question?
Like, about our lives.
Okay.
So this person wants to know, Dear God, who was your worst teacher ever?
Okay.
I think it disqualifies for an advice column because it's going to tell you about, like
what not to do if you're a teacher.
Forget what not to wear. Who not to be.
Who not to be. That would be a great show.
Perfect.
My worst teacher ever was in university. When you're doing a bachelor's degree here in Quebec, I don't know how it is anywhere else, but in Quebec, I was doing my bachelor's in psychology, and I was able to pick classes outside of my program to complement my program, right? And I decided, as someone who loves learning, legitimately, I'm a massive geek, love learning, love school. I was like, you know what? Let's sign up for a class in sociology. I'm in psychology. Sociology is like, related, but it's about like community. I was like, this is going to be fabulous. No. The class was interesting. What we were talking about was interesting. But my prof decided that technology was evil. I'm not even kidding you. First class, walk in, 200 students. The prof tells us, I don't believe in technology. I also don't believe in students paying a ton of money for books, which, like, fantastic. This meant that when we walked into class at 8 a.m., the whiteboard was completely filled with everything that was going to be in the class. But not just the whiteboard. It was one of those classes where you can pull down and there's another whiteboard. Pull up and there's another whiteboard behind. And there's 3 layers of whiteboards that were twice large. All filled with letters, with the words of everything that's going to be in the class. So this prof would come to class like an hour early, 2 hours early to fill up the whiteboard because didn't believe in technology, so giving us links or articles, and didn't want us to pay money for books, so decided that the best thing for us in a class of 200 students was to write everything on the blackboard.
At 8 a.m. that they then had to copy by hand at 8 a.m.
Because otherwise you had nothing to study. What the hell? Nightmare.
At least you were an adult dealing with it.
Yes, but it was what the hell?
So even when you're trying to help people by saying things like, I'm not going to make you pay for textbooks and I'm not going to throw a bunch of, wackadoo links at you, still try to be a little bit more conscientious about who you are, trying to help and how it might actually be helping them, or are you just helping yourself?
Yeah.
I think for me, so here's the thing. Mine is from my childhood. So it's coming through a lens of a child who also is surrounded by other children, who is, so we're talking gossip. We're talking about we made up stories. I'm absolutely certain of it. So if this teacher happens to be listening, I'm not going to name them, but if you happen to recognize that you are the teacher I am talking about, I don't want you to think that I think that this is reality. I am telling you about my experience of like how I felt about this teacher in that time. Because this is like, I was much younger.
It was a long time ago.
Yes. So we had just invented the light bulb. And what I was really excited about... No. So I was much younger. And this is a teacher that I had in previous years. Because when you come from a small village, like the teachers kind of cycle around a little bit sometimes. So I had this teacher in previous years. And there's a lot about him that I loved. But in this one last year that I had him, it was the last year that I was in elementary school. And it kind of seemed to us that he was more interested in being the vice principal of our school than he was in being our teacher. Whether or not that was because he was more interested or because he had to be because our principal, I don't know, needed the help, or I don't know. But it felt that way because in the entire year, we did 3 spelling tests and 2 math tests. Because he was never there. We always had substitute teachers. And then the rest of the time I was at a Catholic school. Surprise! God went to Catholic school. And we had to do confirmation. And part of that was doing service and leadership. So what they did was they basically used us like child labor at the school. So there was like the Green Thumb Club, which is what I was part of. So we had to go like pick up trash in the yard. Or and water all the plants in the school. And then there was like a gym team that their job was like organizing the stock room for the gym. And then there was, I don't even remember all the other ones. But basically we were just doing labor for the school. And so that meant that we were never in class. So when I graduated to the next grade, I had to go to a new school. And there was only 5 of us that transferred to this school. Everyone else went to a different school. 5 of us went to this other school. And at one point, the teacher is teaching, and she says, as you all remember from last year, and literally you could just see 5 heads go. None of us, we did not remember from last year because we did not learn it. So unfortunately, I was at a disadvantage in that year, but I will say that this one teacher also was very passionate about other aspects of teaching because he was also the one, he must have been up on those like, I don't know, the message boards or something because he always had the new ideas of like, this is how we're going to make the classroom run. This is a new approach to teaching that I'm going to try. And he was brilliant at getting everyone involved. He wanted to win the poster selling competition fundraiser every year. He always wanted us to read the most books out of any class. The only reason I am a good storyteller, I think, is because of him. Because he used to read us books every single day during snack time. He was like, it was like Dead Poet Society. Like he was into it. He was up on the desks and he was like using voices and he's jumping around and getting really so he had some really amazing skills. But in that last year, unfortunately, he really let me down.
That did make me think of like, I have another one, the second worst, but I don't think it's the teacher that was the worst. I think it's the situation. I had an advanced stats class in university that went from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. And that was one of the days that I crammed because I did all my classes in 2 days because I was working full time still. So it was at the end of the day. And my professor was French from France and was like almost 70 and had the most monotonous, deep voice ever. So sitting through this brilliant man explaining stats beautifully, like honestly, like his explanations were fantastic, but it was so monotonous and so relaxing. And I had the whole day in my body. I would just sit in class and trying to stay awake was so hard. Again, don't think he was a bad teacher. Just the situation was like, that was a struggle.
So even when you think about somebody and you're like, that was a really bad teacher, let's try to be kind to people. If they were a bad teacher because they did something bad, like they taught terribly, that's a whole other thing. But let's try to remember the good things that we learned from people.
Let's have some compassion for the underpaid workers that are teachers.
Exactly.
If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe, like, comment, and share with your friends so that more people can enjoy Dear God.
We had a wonderful time answering your questions and, giving you some life advice that, again, is not legally binding. We can't wait to hear from you so that we can answer more questions next week. I'm Uma.
And I'm Selma.
We love you.
God bless.